Okay, so imagine this. A band just appears out of nowhere and completely blows up. They're all over Spotify, racking up a huge following. But what if the whole thing, the entire band, was a total fake? That is the wild story we're going to break down in this explainer.
So the band's name is The Velvet Sundown. And listen, they weren't just getting a few pity streams here and there. They were genuinely going viral. Yeah, their social media was growing, but what was happening on Spotify was just on a whole different level.
And to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, that's over 800,000 monthly listeners. That's a massive audience that real human bands work for years, sometimes decades, to build. They were getting recommended, landing on big playlists, and even getting spawned on Spotify's own radio stations.
All right, now here's the twist. This is the real kicker. The Velvet Sundown isn't a real band. Not in any way we'd normally think of one. The songs, the lyrics, the album covers, even the photos of the band members, all of it completely generated by artificial intelligence.
So how in the world was this pulled off? Well, that's what we're here to do. We're going to break it down step by step. You can think of it as part how-to guide and part cautionary tale. Because really, the best way to spot this stuff in the wild is to understand exactly how it's made.
Let's start with the music itself, right? How do you even begin to create an entire catalog of songs that actually sound like they're all from the same band, when there isn't a single musician, a single instrument involved?
Well, the key is an AI music generator, and the one that was most likely used here is a tool called Suno. Now, the real magic trick for making it all sound consistent is a feature called a persona. See, once the AI spits out a song in a style you really like, you can basically save it. You lock in that style, the singer's voice, the guitars, the whole vibe, as a persona. From that point on, every new song you ask it to make will use that same musical DNA. It's wild.
But, an AI needs a really good prompt. You can't just tell it, make me a song that sounds like Green Day. It doesn't work that way. You have to describe the feeling, the vibe. And this is where something like ChatGPT comes in handy. You can ask it to describe a musical genre in vivid detail without naming any bands, and it'll give you this incredible prompt, like the one you see here. This description is basically the secret recipe you feed to the music AI.
So once the music is all generated, what's next? The brand. A viral band has to have a look, right? A face for their Spotify profile, for their album art, for social media. And this, of course, is where AI image generation takes over.
If you look at the pictures of the Velvet Sundown, they have this very specific look. It's a little too glossy, a little too perfect. You know what I mean? It's that signature style of the image generator that's built right into ChatGPT. It was almost certainly the tool they used to create all their band photos.
And this is actually how you can learn to spot these fakes for yourself. You just have to look for the little AI tells. For instance, in one of the Velvet Sundown's photos, the band members are wearing life jackets. But one guy has 2 straps, and another has 3. They're holding canoe paddles that have these bizarre, impossible shapes. It's always the tiny, weird, inconsistent details that are the dead giveaways.
Okay, so they've got the AI music, they've got the AI band photos. The final piece of this puzzle is getting it all onto a giant platform like Spotify so the whole world can actually hear it.
Now, you might think this is the really complicated part, but it's actually shockingly simple. So you don't upload your music directly to Spotify. You use what's called a distributor, a service like DistroKid. For a pretty small yearly fee, you just upload your audio files and your album art, you fill in some details, and boom, they send it to all the major streaming services for you.
And here's a little detail that just shows you how easy and kind of unregulated this whole process is. When the distributor's form asks for the songwriter's real name, what do you type for an AI? Well, turns out you can just make one up. The source for this explainer actually tested it and cheekily entered the name Artie Intelligence. First name, Artie. Last name, Intelligence. And it went through, no problem.
So let's just put it all together real quick. Here's the basic toolkit to create your own viral fake band. You use ChatGPT for all the ideas: the band name, the music style, the images. You use Suno AI for the actual music and lyrics. And then you use a service like DistroKid to push it all out into the world. That's pretty much the entire playbook.
So we know how this was done.
But that leads us to a much, much bigger question. What does it all mean? Because this isn't just some clever little prank. This whole thing raises some really serious questions about the future of music itself.
The source material for this explainer brought up this really interesting speculative idea. They called it a tinfoil hat theory, but when you think about it, it's compelling. The theory is that a platform like Spotify could have a huge incentive to start creating its own AI music. And why would they do that? Simple. If they own the music, they don't have to pay out any royalties to artists.
The motive here really just comes down to basic economics. Publicly traded companies are legally driven to maximize profit for their shareholders. And if a streaming platform can get rid of its single biggest expense, which is royalty payments, by just owning the music itself, well, the financial incentive is absolutely enormous. And the big worry here, the potential downside, is that the sheer ease of this process could lead to a future where streaming services are just flooded, drowned in what the source calls AI slop music. Just a massive sea of generic, soulless, algorithmically generated tracks that push all the human creativity to the margins. Which leaves us with this one final, fascinating question. Before anyone knew the truth, 800,000 people a month genuinely enjoyed the Velvet Sundown's music. So, if you love a song, does it really matter who or what created it? Does it matter if it came from a human being in a recording studio or an algorithm in the cloud? What does that mean for art? What does it mean for us? It's a strange new world out there, and we're all just starting to hear its soundtrack.